Good evening. Welcome to the Black Conservative Voice with David Colbert here on the CTM News Network, the Voice of Truth. First off tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about this Governor Brown of Oregon. Oregon's Governor Kate Brown is considering commuting the sentences of as many as 400 prisoners in state detention centers as a coronavirus precaution, according to reports. The move would come as police in the state's largest city, Portland, had their hands full with nightly riots and destructions for 3 straight months, with protests in other cities as well. The prisoners eyed for early release would include those who are within 2 months of the end of their sentences, as well as about a dozen inmates deemed medically vulnerable to the virus. OregonLive.com reported. Portland judge sets bail for accused attacker Marquise Love. I don't know what that is. Okay. Given what, here's what this governor, I'm just saying, Brown wrote, given what we know now about the disease and its pervasive in our community, it is appropriate to review for potential release of individuals who face significant health challenges should they contract COVID-19. Brown wrote to Colin Peters, administrator of state's prison system, according to the OregonLive.com. Now, I don't know about you folks there in Oregon. I don't think I want 400 offenders out on the street. Whether they committed violent crimes or not, you probably will not know. And if they're let out, just as the police believe, I believe they'll just join the other rioters out there. No, there's no jobs open. There's no businesses open. Everything's closed down in that Democratic-run city. So there's nowhere for them to go except hang out in the street. Those inmates declared an unacceptable safety, security, or compliance risk to the community would not be eligible, the governor wrote. So she's saying that she's going to try to pick who and choose who might come out depending on whether they are a risk to the community, which any criminal is a risk to the community. If they haven't been reformed, you're letting them out early. The governor previously commuted sentence for 57 inmates, according to the report. Oregon Governor Kate Brown, federal cops are a secret police, she says. Those being considered for release must have exhibited good behavior over the past 12 months. A murderer could exhibit good behavior for a few months, or a serial killer, and cannot have been incarcerated for crimes against other people. Well, every crime is against somebody else. Brown added in her letter to the State Department of Corrections, she said, well, come on, crimes normally are committed against other people or against other people's property. Brown, 60 years old, a Democrat who has been Oregon's governor since February 2015, and it's time for her to step down, requested a list of names eligible inmates be delivered to her office by September 18th, the news outlet reported. Now, the peaceful protesters need to come out and peacefully protest against this foolishness. So far, Oregon has seen 3 prison inmates die from the coronavirus from among 634 confirmed cases. More than 500 inmates have recovered. And then it says here, that's more than 500 inmates have recovered. Then it goes on to say correction workers have accounted for 177 of the viruses that were reported. So wait a minute now. You got 500 inmates, or over 500 inmates, who have possibly contracted the coronavirus, but it's over 600 inmates, and 500 have recovered. So who didn't recover? You got 177 officers or administrative people who have, most of which maybe could have recovered. But you got 500 recoveries, and included in those numbers is 177 cases. So what's the purpose for letting the inmates out again? Okay, let's move on. Overnight and Saturday night, Portland police make over 50 arrests. They use tear gas as protesters threw fire bombs. Police advanced on protesters to clear the street on the 100th consecutive night of protests against claims of police violence and false claims of racial inequality in Portland, Oregon, U.S. As Democrats use Antifa and Black Lives Matter to try and sway voters that President Trump has propagated violence in America. They're running out of things to accuse President Trump of. And so now they're using violent protesters and saying it is his fault. What happened to the peaceful protesters? Has anybody noticed that all of a sudden now we're hearing Democrats coming out saying that they're violent protesters, and all of a sudden Antifa comes up, the imaginary people, Antifa, which our famous Jerry Nadler said. They're just a myth. Let me tell you that it got out of hand. They are now finding out how rebellious some teenagers and young adults can be. They have turned the jails into Grand Central Station for BLM and Antifa members arrested by bailing them out immediately. I am talking about the Democrat Party. They allowed these crimes and these schemes to go on and go forward. They're trying to hide, but in this day of social media and so many ways to get into information, we are finding that Antifa and BLM are closely tied with the Democrat Party. They can try to avoid it all they want, but it's still coming up. It's just like they did in the impeachment trial. They tried to lie about President Trump, and eventually came out. Governor Brown wants to release 400 prisoners because of COVID-19. She is out of her ever-loving mind. Some in the sheriff department want to have her recalled. Protesters in Portland threw rocks and fire bombs at police who in turn made over 50 arrests and used tear gas on Saturday night on the 100th day of demonstration in Oregon City against alleged racism and alleged police brutality. You notice I say alleged. Now in the article they didn't say alleged, but you can't accuse anybody of something if it has not gone before a court and there has been an investigation into these matters. So all these charges that they're bringing out, just spewing out garbage, is all alleged. It's all alleged. Okay, police describe what they call tumultuous and violent conduct by the protesters on the city's southeast Stark Street. One of the fire bombs caught a community member on fire and he was taken to the hospital. Portland police said in a statement, adding that the sergeant was also struck by the commercial grade fireworks that injured his hand. Where did these people get commercial grade fireworks? Who could say, let me be quiet. Okay, police said officers used tear gas among other crowd control methods to disperse the gathering, which Oregon newspapers have estimated to be around 400. Portland has been nightly protests for over 3 months that have times turned into violent clashes between demonstrators and officers, as well as right and left wing groups. When they say right and left wing groups, you want to know who the peaceful protesters are? They're the right wing groups, because the left wings are attached to violence. Let me ask you a question. Maybe I can answer this. Put it in the comments if you want to answer me this. Why do all as this Antifa and these Black Lives, why do they have to go off constantly cursing? Can't they use intelligible language? Can they not speak in English? Do they need to use expletives to express themselves? To me, my mom told me when we were coming up, she said that was a sign of ignorance. If you don't know how to use language properly, all you do is come up with a bunch of expletives cursing and all kinds of stuff like that. Well, that doesn't do. So me, that's telling me your level of intelligence and what you actually know, because you don't know nothing if you can't express yourself with language. President Trump signed a memo on Wednesday that threatened to cut federal funding to lawless cities, including Portland. His Democratic challenger in November 3rd presidential election, mate Joe Biden, has accused Trump of stoking violence with his rhetoric. Give me a freaking break. Biden is sleepwalking and is a talking head for the radical Democratic socialists, the left in Washington, who doesn't even know where he is most of the time. How sad. Somebody get him some help before it's too late, please. We're going to take a short break right now here on a Black Conservative Voice. We'll be right back with you in a moment. I'm your host, David Colbert.
Dr. Melinda Morris supports a strong economy, safe neighborhoods, limited property taxes, and promotes an improved education system. Dr. Melinda Morris wants to improve access and insurance coverage for medical care. Dr. Morris is pro-life and will support right-to-life legislation in Austin. Dr. Morris will remain true to her values when she is elected to office. She is going to Austin to promote life, prosperity, and personal freedom for the constituents of Senate District 13.
Welcome back. You're watching the Black Conservative Voice with David Colbert here on the CTM News Network, the voice of truth. It was reported by on One American News during Friday's White House press briefing. The president looked back on his administration's efforts to stem both the economic and health effects of the pandemic. He has suggested more is still in store for the country. Ahead of the Labor Day weekend, President Trump discussed recent additions to the labor market. As we begin Labor Day, he said, weekend, America's unprecedented economic recovery continues, he stated. 1.4 million jobs were added last month, bringing the total to 10.6 million jobs created in just 4 months recorded by far. What about that, Mr. Bring Back America? We're going to bring back America. Give me a break, Mr. Biden. America's already coming back under our administration, the President Trump administration. The president stressed this administration's efforts have not been limited to mitigating the pandemic's economic fallout. According to him, officials also sought to minimize the rate of infection in the country. He went on to highlight his enactment of travel restrictions and claimed the move was responsible for saving countless American lives. If he goes and he quotes said, if I didn't close up our country and stop China highly infected from coming in, we would have far more cases than that, he added. And that is the truth. But maybe even more important, if I didn't close up, instead of the number you mentioned, perhaps we would have 1.5 or 2 million deaths right now. Now, nobody will tell you this, and every time we do posts on social media, they block these down and call it misinformation. But I had a photo one time, and some of you may have seen it before they took it down, a photo of former President Obama. This is in 2015. Former President Obama and Dr. Anthony Fauci standing in the Wuhan lab in China with the scientists that was set to have created this synthetic virus that the left has used to kill millions. You can say what you please, but it was all a plot. It was all a plot to test the theory. There was propagated by a gentleman by the name of Gates and his foundation as well. I told you in my article several months ago that look at the language being used. Safe mode. Think about a computer. Shutdown, lockdown. These are terms used in computers, in dealing with computers. What happened when all this shutdown happened? Oh, people were given free internet time, more gigs, whatever. Oh, you can have this. Well, you have this. It was a plug for the industry, the tech industry, guys. And if you don't believe me, check it out. Do your review of the statistics and the facts. A lot of the internet companies are pushing everybody toward internet. They don't want cash money anymore. They want all these internet or tele whatever money, whatever. You see, even Facebook, when Mr. Zuckerberg was pulled up trying to start a new currency, they want computerized currency. But you know the problem with that? People can corrupt stuff like that. They can get in a computer and contaminate those things. Moving on. President Donald Trump's name is seen on a stimulus check issued by the IRS help combat the adverse economic effects of COVID-19 outbreak in San Antonio. We're going to take a short break right now. We'll be right back with you here on the Black Conservative Voice with your host, David Colbert.
We come together to imagine a future determined by the shining light of our hopes and values and faith. A country where we are judged by our character with dignity and respect for all. The belief that all are created equal, that lives matter irrespective of race, creed, or color. Committed to excelling beyond our dreams. 4 years ago, we faced an historic crossroad. Career politicians promising change every election, but delivering emptiness. We chose a different path. A man who is not a politician. A man who cares. A man who works tirelessly for you. Still, politicians spun their deceptions and obstructed progress, fanning the flames of lawlessness. We all know that it is easy to criticize. It takes a true leader to solve problems. COVID-19, while others criticize without solutions, President Trump's swift action saved lives. And as leading Democrats want to keep businesses closed down, our president is leading the way for a full economic recovery. We are America. We as Americans work together to overcome challenges, write our own stories. America, land of promise, land of opportunity, land of heroes, land of greatness.
1.4 million jobs added. 1.4 million jobs added back into the economy.
A number around 1.4 was, excellent.
The unemployment rate falling here, Jim, to 8.4%.
That was a dramatic drop in the unemployment rate.
That's not only below double digit, but it's below some of the year-end targets that we've heard.
8.4 is certainly a lot lower than I thought we would get the unemployment rate by the summer, lower even than I thought it would be at the end of the year.
No question, it was a much better number than was expected.
It shows that the economic recovery is here.
Latinos and women saw the biggest decreases in unemployment rate. That is good progress overall.
There is a recovery taking place.
This is wonderful news.
This is a solid report pointing to continued recovery.
Welcome back. You're watching the Black Conservative Voice here on the CTM News Network, and I'm your host, David Colbert. There was just a few hundred coronavirus cases when Congress first started focusing on emergency spending in early March. By the end of that month, as Congress passed the massive $2.2 trillion CARES Act, cases skyrocketed above 100,000 and deaths climbed past 2,000, according to the Associated Press. President Trump also announced ongoing plans to continue the enforcement of business shutdowns and distribution of aid in America's disrupted lockdowns. He has once again called on Congress to reach an agreement that will give families across the country much needed relief. If you have a congressman or congresswoman that's Democrat, get on their case, because they are holding up the plan for approval for that plan. They want it too much. We have to come to an agreement in order to get the help our small businesses need and you as an American family need. Please get on your government officials, if you're Democratic, Republican, whatever. The president particularly made a point of emphasizing the need for a new round of stimulus checks. And he doesn't care about the American people? Give me a break. According to him, his administration already has funds set aside and ready to be distributed, pending Congress's authorization of disbursement. See, Congress is the only one, guys, that can disperse money. So if you were looking for someone to blame about you not getting your checks, look at Nancy Pelosi. She is the one that's holding up your money. President Trump wanted to say we had $300 billion sitting in an account that we didn't use, and we are willing to use that. He said, I would be willing to release it, subject to Congress, and use that stimulus money. See, there's another thing, and he just told you what he could do. If he signs a bill to release the part of that other bill related to stimulus, and Nancy Pelosi and Congress agree with them, they can continue to fuss at all the other things. But if they sign that, then he will go ahead and release $300 billion so that you can have some more money in your pocket to continue your personal recovery. But will they do it? Let's see if Nancy Pelosi does it, or she continues to drag us on through the November election. I'll tell you what, if she does, I don't care if you love her to the hilt, don't vote for her. Despite these achievements, the president pointed out the dominant narrative in the media remains accusatory towards his administration, which is pure foolishness. Meanwhile, he noted the press has much more amiable relationship with the Democratic opponent, Joe Biden. Listen to this, and I've done this too. I watched the interview with Sleepy Joe Biden. He says, you didn't ask questions like that. He read a question that they were like meant for a child, smiles on faces of reporters. I just want to tell you that is a disgrace, Donald Trump said, the 45th president of the United States of America. The president concluded his remarks by reminding Americans to take precautions over the holiday weekend to prevent the spread of the disease, coronavirus. Now, let me share something real quick before I go on, and my time's getting kind of run out here a little bit, but I just want to share this with you. There was a lady that got up in Joe Biden's meeting when he went to that church in Wisconsin. Now, the fake news media will not show you that. I'm going to see if I can get that to, hopefully, by the time of this broadcast, Monday night, I should have been able to get that information to my station. But you'll see, this young lady in that meeting said, she put up a piece of paper that says, I'm not going to ask this question that you gave me at the door, telling me that I asked Vice President Biden this question. I'm going to tell him the truth. She stood up and she told them, she said, your people have been coming here for years, talking about what you're going to do, and you've done absolutely nothing for our community here in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I'm not going to lie and say you did. And this is what she said. You think I'm lying? If somebody find her and bring on a report. She said that they were lying. They didn't do anything for her African American or black community, which I already know that anyway. I'm with Kim Clayson in Baltimore City, where she tells you that for 53 years they were in Baltimore. They did absolutely nothing. I grew up there. All they did was create more welfare, more food stamp programs, more programs to entitle people than keep us in mental slavery. That's what he wanted to do. That's what the Democratic Party wants to do. That's what they want to do. Let me move on. I'm sorry. They get me upset now because I grew up through this mess. I'm tired of them and the way they do things because they do not take care of the black community. President Trump has already proven in the short time he's been in office how much has he done. 10 years of funding for historically black colleges. Jobs for black young people coming out of college. Man. Black voices for Trump. Give me a break. Democrats coming to Trump. Biden makes awkward, they'll shoot me, he says, quip during Kenosha appearance. Biden's visit was said to be focused on healing after the police shooting of Jacob Blake. Let me tell you a little bit about this Jacob Blake shooting. Some of you may have heard it, some of you may not know. This man assaulted a female. That is the reason why they were trying to arrest him. When I heard the disgusting thing of what he did, he engaged a female, almost rape, pretty much, you might well call it, in an unwanted sexual act. The police were coming to arrest him. He was moving toward his car and refusing to stop when they told him to stop. What do you think the police should do? Wait for him to reach in his car and pull out a gun? I've already seen it happen before. I've seen videos where people, they let the police allow the man to get in the car, get his gun, and all of a sudden you got 2 police shot, falling dead because they allowed this to happen. I'm sorry that he got himself in that position, but the police are not at fault. Biden meets with Jacob Blake's family in Wisconsin days after Trump's visit. Yeah, they'll meet with him because they know, and this is foolishness, because this is the foolish, crazy brainwashing the Democratic Party has done to our people in certain areas of the country. You still inviting this man in after they've done nothing for you. They will come and they probably offer you a few dollars to come in your door. The Democrat nominee Joe Biden is meeting with community leaders in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Yeah, he met with them. But he met with the community leaders in the Kenosha Grace Lutheran Church. And there was only about 8 or 10 people there, guys. Only about 8 or 10 people. And the press weren't answering any question. And the questions that were put toward Biden was it was fluffy question. Nobody asked him about Hunter Biden, his criminal son, or why the UK was paying him over $1 billion to sit on a board when he didn't even do anything. Did they ask about that? No. So he was in there in Grace Community Church. The man did some appalling things to me. Let me tell you something. I'm a professional performer as well as an anchor person and a journalist. But I'm telling you, it is rude to turn your back on your audience. How many of you know what I'm talking about? And do one of these like he did in his speech the other night. I'm like, what are you looking at? What are you looking at, the devil on his left shoulder? What do you think I should do? Because he wasn't looking to the right. You seen those joke videos? He's looking to the left. Hey, what do you think I should do? Anyway, I'll talk to the people out here. Please, when you go to the polls this November, please vote Republican. Vote President Donald J. Trump back into office. If you want this country to survive in a state that it's in now, is heading toward anarchy. And the Democrats are too weak to stop it. They're too weak. And they keep trying to do stuff. The mayors, the governors are trying to do stuff on their own, and it's unsuccessful. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back right back at you in a moment to close. This is David Colbert, Black Conservative Voice.
Commander-in-Chief. It's more than just a job. Since taking office, President Donald Trump has rebuilt our military, repaired a broken VA, and eliminated Soleimani, al-Baghdadi, ISIS, the world's deadliest terrorists brought to justice. Today, America is safer and stronger than ever. Because to President Trump, it's more than just a job. It's a sworn duty to keep America safe.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
1.4 million jobs added.
1.4 million jobs added back into the economy. A number around 1.4 was, excellent. The unemployment rate falling here, Jim, to 8.4%.
That was a dramatic drop in the unemployment rate.
That's not only below double digit, but it's below some of the year-end targets that we've heard.
8.4 is certainly a lot lower than I thought we would get the unemployment rate by the summer, lower even than I thought it would be at the end of the year.
No question, it was a much better number than was expected.
It shows that the economic recovery is here.
Latinos and women saw the biggest decreases in unemployment rate. That is good progress overall.
There is a recovery taking place.
This is wonderful news.
This is a solid report pointing to continued recovery.
Welcome back. I'd like to thank you for joining the Black Conservative Voice with David Colbert. I want to also give you an invitation. We have advertising and sponsorship on this program. It's very, very inexpensive. So if you have a small business or political campaign, you're welcome to contact us by email, and we will send out contracts to you, give you our rates. We have different programs, different rates. You could do it for a whole month, a week, a day, or a couple of times a week, or whatever you want. And the spots are extremely cheap. So anyway, I want to thank you once again for sitting with me here tonight at the Black Conservative Voice here at CTM News Network. And as I always do, as I always love to do, I want to say God bless you, God bless America, and God bless the world. And this is David Colbert saying good night.